देह शिवा पर मोर है शुभ कर मन ते कबू न डरो
I may welcome you with Vaheguru Ji.
Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa.
Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
So, Satsang Ji, first of all, I would like to thank the organisers of this event for inviting the Sikh Awareness Society here today. I'm very honoured and happy to be here at this event, tolerating the intolerant 800 years of defending human rights. I know there's a bit of time constraint on here, and I'm going to try to finish in the allotted time that I have. But as you know, I mean, the whole world works around GMT time, we mean Greenwich Mean Time, but for us Punjabis, it means Jinnah Marzi time. So I won't be taking Jinnah Marzi time out of defending human rights. Right from the onset of the Sikh faith, the Sikh gurus, from Guru Nanak Dev Ji to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, condemns the disease of intolerance. The Sikh gurus vehemently supported the right of free speech and free choice of faith and defended human rights. No price is too much to pay to protect these values. There's a beautiful shabd in the Guru Granth Sahib that says, Sura so pehchaniye jo lade deen ke hed, purja kat mare, kabu na shade khed, meaning he alone, known as a spiritual hero, who fights in defense of his faith, his values, his morals, his ethics. He may be cut apart, piece by piece, but he never leaves the battlefield. And in the Sikh history, this is best exemplified through our gurus and our Sikhs. Now, going back 400 years ago, Jahangir, the Mughal emperor at that time, forcefully wanted to convert Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the fifth Guru of the Sikhs. Guruji didn't convert, he was martyred, he was killed. Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the same thing happened to him. The ninth Guru of the Sikhs, Aurangzeb, wanted to convert Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, so the whole of the Hindu nation would convert to Islam. Guruji refused, and Guruji was martyred in New Delhi, followed by thousands and thousands and thousands of Sikhs, by Satidas, by Matidas, by the Allaji. And some of the tortures they suffered, and some of the ways they were put to death, is beyond even thinking about. You either force or you die in that manner. Bhai Satidas Ji was wrapped in cotton wool and burnt alive in New Delhi. Bhai Matidas Ji was sawn in half because he would not accept Islam. And Bhai Diyala Ji was boiled alive in a hot cauldron of water because he would not convert. Thousands upon thousands, mass torture and persecution of Sikhs continued under Zakaria Khan because the Sikhs would not convert. Torture of Sikh women and kids in Mir Manudi prisons from 1748 to 1753 because these kids and these women wouldn't convert. And when we see the brutality that our gurus had to suffer and our Sikhs had to suffer 400, 300 years ago, we see the same brutality in the Middle East right now, ISIS. The brutality of ISIS is a copy of what Mughals did with Sikhs of Punjab and the rest of India. Recently, forceful conversions are still happening. In Pakistan this year, a young girl by the name of Priya Rani, a 17-year-old girl, was kidnapped on her way from school and forcibly converted. Let's move on here which brings us right up here today. The same attack is taking place with a new method. And this stealth method, which has been used extensively in the UK, across Europe, and in parts of India, and you might have all heard that word, grooming. Now, for those that don't know what grooming is a carefully planned process with the aim of controlling a young person to ensure that they do exactly what the perpetrator wants. Grooming is being used for sexual exploitation. Grooming is also used in the process of conversions, and grooming is also used in the process of terrorism. And we at the Sikh Awareness Society have been working on these issues for 2 decades. This year it's going to be our 20th year working on this, because when we first started out, there was no organization within the Indian culture that was dealing with these things. We'll be working day and night to prevent the grooming of our young people in our society who have been targeted because of their religion. Now, Sandeep Samra, a young girl living in Coventry, age 15 and a half, and I'm not going back years and years, this is earlier on this year. A young girl, within 2 months, converted, left home, converted because she was groomed, came back. The police and the local council gave no help to the family. They said, conversion is conversion, we can't do anything about it. By 17 and a half, she was actually picked up by the police for preparing an act of terrorism. See the change within months. Conversion, sexual exploitation, and terrorism, they all go parallel. And we worked with this family. And over the years, we found one particular model, one particular common theme in the majority of all exploitation cases. I'm going to briefly take you through this model. And the one that works all the time is the boyfriend model. In Europe, it's called the lover boys. In India, I believe it's called love jihad. Where girls are being deceived into believing that they are in a mutual relationship only to be groomed and passed on to other groups. In Gurbani, my guru tells me, Jinman hor, mukh hor, sekande kachiye. Those who have one thing in their hearts and something else in their mouth, they are judged false. And this is what's happening. On the lips of these people, it's something else. In the heart, there is a planned attack. A young lady in Slough, 16, thought she was in a relationship late last year with a Pakistani gentleman. They did things together, sexual things together. He filmed her. He then put it on the internet. He had 400 followers. And he was saying he was doing this and this and this to this young lady. And they said, prove her faith to us. Prove that you're doing it to this particular faith. So one day, he takes her to her home when her parents are out, while in the act of doing sexual act. He then moved his camera towards the picture of their guru. Literally, when he put it on, the comments started coming. Literally, you have destroyed the faith and the girl. That means there's a planned attack. And this case is also coming to court in Slough, maybe in the next month or 2 months. There's peer-to-peer grooming, where young people have been taken to parties where exploitation takes place. Last year, we dealt with a Hindu girl in Leicester who studied in Leicester, was invited to a party in Birmingham on Broad Street, and then brutally raped by 3 people. Street-based exploitation. Young men and young women are being sexually exploited on the streets, in the colleges, universities, workplaces. And you go past any town, there are people shoving down leaflets down your throat. And sometimes you can't even go into the city centres because there's so much noise and so many people promoting their own way of life. And even people have been exploited in their religious festivals. 2013, we're celebrating Diwali tonight. 2013 wasn't the festival of light for someone, but it was the festival of dark. She was going into hell because while celebrating on the streets with her friends, she came in contact with 5 or 6 people. Numbers were shared. The next day, they went out for a meal, went out to the park, and this young lady was raped by 4 people and filmed. And her life, from just being an ordinary 16-year-old, turned into a life of prostitution for 4 months until we got that case. We were able to help this young lady, and we were also able to put 6 people behind bars. It's not just a Diwali festival that in Vaisakhi 5 years ago, a young lady, a young 15-year-old, was tricked into believing that these were Sikh guys wearing kadas and bandanas with the Khanda, the logo. Numbers were exchanged. She went out with a meal next day, talking about Vaisakhi. Her coat was spiked. When she complained to the police, the Met, at that time, no action was taken. Her life spiraled out of control. For 5 months, she was actually a prostitute on the streets of London until we got the case. To protect her, the only way to protect her was to send her outside the country so she can have that safety, that safe haven. Now, exploitation has been happening for a long time. In 1993, the government asked Jill Jensen in Aston University to produce and see what's happening in prostitution. She came out with 6 months of research and produced a document naming names, naming faith, and everything. And while that report was given to the government destroyed that report. There was no way that report was going forward because certain names were mentioned over and over again. West Midland Police says it's 87% Asian. Now, we have to face up to the uncomfortable truth about the grooming gangs. Rotherham, Rochdale, Oxford, Bristol, Aylesbury. In Aylesbury, kids were made to perform sex acts just for as little as a McDonald's meal. That's what came out in the court cases. Peterborough, Telford, Derby, Bradford, Leeds, Newcastle. The list is just so long that this is happening on an industrial scale throughout the UK. And from all these cities mentioned, there is a common trend, and this is what you've got to get. The common trend, there is always a non-Muslim person that is being targeted. Now let me ask you who the real racists are. If a certain group is targeting not their own community, but targeting other community, who are the real racists? like I said, it's happening on an industrial scale, and I believe it's not racist to speak the unavoidable truth about the predators. I know we'll be shushed, exiled, or even encouraged to clean out this polluted mind, but we can't. Because you know what? These are our daughters. These are our children. This is our future. So let me say, shutting down a debate against Muslim grooming is particularly foul snub to all those young people who've been used and abused in the vilest of ways. Every time we want to debate on it, we get shut. The doors are shut. Recently, when an MP made a comment after the Newcastle case, she was made to resign from the Labour Party. Why? Because they didn't want to tackle this issue. There's a conversation to be had. Who the perpetrators are, what is their ethnic race, what is their religion, and we should be brave enough to have it and say it. Just going to take 2 more minutes. We cannot sidestep the fact that 90% of grooming gangs are of Muslim origin, and yet only 5% of the population follows Islam in this country. So Satsangaji, a national debate is urgently needed to understand why Pakistani heritage gangs have been abusing non-Muslim girls across the country, and the debate needs people who ain't afraid to listen to the truth, and this debate doesn't need those people who see no evil and hear no evil, like we got in the councils across the country and in government, especially in opposition to government. And it's time for the media and the police and the local authorities to abandon political correctness and stop using the throwaway term Asian. Drop the term Asian. It's misleading and it's offensive. In the end, all I want to say is thank you very much for listening to us today, and thank you very much for inviting us here today. And I hope you take this on board and take it within your communities and spread that message. Why?